You may have a stressful day at work.
Yeah.
You know, for us, that's enough for me to come home and be like, yeah, I just don't feel like it. But meanwhile, earlier in the day, I was like, yeah, babe, I can't wait to get home because it's about to be on and popping.
Psych!
And then... Hey, y'all, it's your girl, Nadia.
And it's me, Coach T.
And we are Two Average People. Today, we're going to talk about, again, sex. Right? If you didn't catch one of our last podcasts, we introduced the topic of sex and growing up, kind of our experience or lack of, in that sense, around it. So check that out. But, we've been doing some research and we kind of been talking amongst ourselves about the topic, you know. There's so much to explore when it comes to sex. There's so many different areas that we've learned it. I don't even know that we can talk about it in 1, 2, 3 podcasts. It's just such a broad topic. And there's so many elements, right?
It'll be like a 15-parter by the time we're done. Yeah.
We've definitely been exploring sex as a very important, vital part of our relationship. What I know for us is, as men and women, we see sex differently, right? And as Tabari and Nadia, we see sex differently. And so, really having those discussions and having a language around sex is very important to maintaining a sexual relationship.
I agree. And in maintaining a sexual relationship, it's important that we both know ourselves and each other.
Yeah.
Both on the personality level and on just the animalistic level. Like I'm a man, but I'm an animal at the same time. So I got to know kind of both sides of that coin. Yeah. Or else I'll be, I'll have to learn the hard way.
I think I want to kind of talk about, babe, my views on sex as a woman.
I like. Okay. You want to talk about your views on sex?
Yeah.
Where are we going from here? Let's talk about it.
I think it's important for us to talk about how we view sex.
All right.
So this week we're going to talk about how I view sex as a woman and a lot of women. And then next podcast, we're going to talk about how he views sex as a man. I know for me, and I think a lot of women can speak to this, sex is definitely connected to our emotions.
Right.
And I've probably said this before in other podcasts. Definitely connected to our emotions. So what does that mean? A lot of the time, we need to have that emotional connection with you to feel...
That makes sense.
Connected to you, to want to feel connected to you physically.
Right? Yeah.
I think it's important for you, as my husband, to know the value, how much I value the emotional connection, right? So a lot of women who have issues with their partner, their husbands or whatever, I'll talk to some of my friends and they're like, yeah, this isn't right or that isn't right. It's very hard then to say, all right, well, let's go and, get busy. Because it's hard for us to have that physical attraction when you're in a relationship if that emotional connection isn't there.
Which is awkward because you think that if you're already in a relationship that connection is already there, it's already established, it's already underway, it's in play. But a lot of the time it's there and then it does this. It ebbs and flows. Yeah. It's up and it's down. And so the question really becomes, when are you up and what does that look like? And when are you down and what does that look like?
And I think that's interesting because there's a lot of things that I think can affect that.
Yeah.
Excuse me. So I think sometimes just life can affect, how you feel, the things that you have to do, your responsibilities, keeping a schedule,
keeping the
family together,
appointments.
There's a lot that affects that. You may have a stressful day at work.
Yeah.
For us, that's enough for me to come home and be like, yeah, I just don't feel like it. But meanwhile, earlier in the day, I was like, yeah, babe, I can't wait to get home because it's about to be on and popping.
Psych!
On popping. But then when I get home after a stressful day, after working, as many of you know, I work really long shifts. I'm not in the mood anymore. Like, I don't want to. Now, meanwhile, he's all excited about it. Like, hell yeah, it's about to be on and popping. And, I come home, and the minute I walk in the door, he knows, okay. All right. This is not happening. Right. Because he can tell by my face and by, like, just my demeanor, and we're so in tune with each other, our energy, that, okay, she's clearly had a day, and we need to work through this. So to answer your question, babe, or to stress your point, the ebbs and flows can be for many different reasons.
Extreme.
I know for me, the time of the month, right? So after my cycle's done, it's like, hey, let's go. I'm ready. But the closer I get to the end, or closer I get to my cycle, is the less my sex drive is there. And so there's so many different factors when it comes to ebbs and flows for women. But I think it's important to understand that, because sometimes as men, you could feel that you're the problem. Now, in some relationships, he is the problem, right?
Don't point at me. Don't put that on me. I rebuke that in the name of Jesus.
You're never the problem, baby. So in some relationships, he could be the problem, right?
True.
You may not want to have that connection that physical connection with your husband because, you guys argued, or there's resentment, or there's trust issues, or whatever. But it's important that if you feel like you have a very sound connection with your husband, that when you do have those ebbs and flows, that you speak to him and say, hey, look, I'm just not in the mood. I've had a really long day. It's not you, but, It
helps, because I can tell you that just from the man's perspective, here's how it looks. We're hot and heavy on the phone. They say a good sexual experience starts in the morning. Cool.
Yeah, that means he's making breakfast, like he's, washing the dish, and I'm playing y'all. But it does help, guys. It helps.
It helps. Just sometimes. Sometimes. Do not hang your hat on that rack. I promise you it's going to fall at least 50% of the time. Baby. It's going to fall. But those other 50%, it's definitely the one, okay? Good sexual experience starts in the morning. That's what most men are taught about women specifically, because we don't need any such runway. Hey, you want? That's all we need. We need an invitation. Yes, ma'am, I will. But if in a good, healthy relationship, it's not just about the sex. So it's okay that it takes a little time. It's okay that you have to kind of get into it a little bit. And that's the fun part, too.
Yeah.
But after a long day and a hard working day, and the other day she worked her regular shift and 4 hours after. Yeah, good luck. It doesn't really matter what you did earlier in the day. So that ebb and flow can come up quickly if you're not careful.
And very difficult to manage.
Yeah,
and it can be unexpected for both of you.
Yeah.
And that's why it's important to really create that dialogue around it. That conversation. But through learning myself as a woman when it comes to sex, I really realized that there's a lot of benefits to having sex. So there's times when I'm just not in the mood, right? I just, and sometimes it may have been a few days, right? So, we don't really, there has been times where we've gone weeks, but we usually don't go weeks without having sex.
That's definitely not often. Tabari can't. I can't. I'll be dead. I'm dead. So
yeah. But I know it's been a few days and I'm just really not in the mood. But I've realized that there is a lot of benefits for me to having sex, and sometimes I'm like, as much as we've created our sexual temperature.
Nice.
You know, it's not till after sometimes, and I'm like, oh yeah, I needed that, right?
Meanwhile, I'm like, I told you.
It's like, I've been saying this. So what I've learned is that I'm sure I've said this before, but then when we're having regular sex, that my connection with him is so much stronger.
Very much so.
And, you know, on the opposite side, when we haven't had a lot of sex, it's like, I just don't feel as connected to him. And it's not necessarily that I'm not connected to him. It's just
you feel it.
It's just that little finish of connection, like when we have a regular sex life. I found that one of the benefits for me is really having that connection. Also, a person like I've talked about my anxiety in previous podcasts, but it does really help you release some anxiety and stress.
So, like, it releases, like, good hormones.
It releases good hormones.
Like, pleasure hormones, like oxytocin.
Yeah, kind of like exercise.
Yeah.
You know, it releases those... it releases these students. It releases those really good hormones to kind of get you feeling good and... de-stressed and, you know, all of that. Here's the problem, though. And this is something that I struggle with. When I'm anxious and stressed, I don't want to have sex. So I'm supposed to do the thing that
you don't
helps release. And I've proven it really does help release. This is not something that I read it. I've read it before, but I'm not just telling you this because I've read it. I've actually experienced this. So I'm supposed to do this thing that helps me relieve stress and anxiety, yet I don't feel like it because I have stress and anxiety. What am I supposed to do with that?
What are you supposed to do with that? I'm still trying to figure it out.
What are you supposed to do?
I don't know.
You know what you're supposed to do.
I'm supposed to pray to God and hope for the best.
No, you're supposed to give me sex.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. I just want to hear you say
y'all. But no, seriously. We're being real funny in this.
I mean...
They trying to listen, baby. Let's talk about it. But no, seriously, y'all, it really is a really good stress reliever. Especially after a long day. Obviously, you know, you don't have to, after a long day and you just want to come home and relax, that's fine. But when you've been in a heightened sense of stress through work, through family, through all that needs to be done, just taking a moment and just being intimate with the person you love is such a stress reliever. So I think it is important to remember those things, especially as women, because sometimes I know I get caught up in the everyday. Oh, I gotta cook, I gotta wash the dishes, I gotta go to the gym, I gotta do London's hair, whatever it is. You just think about all those things, and then sex sometimes goes on the back burner. And I actually had to learn how to prioritize sex, not just for him, but really for me and our connection.
Fair.
Some days it's like, oh, these dishes gonna have to stay in the sink because at the end of the day, our connection is way more important than dishes to me.
And I gotta say that from the male perspective, I gotta tell you that a lot of women, they're like, well, I can't function unless the dishes are clean, but the place is clean, and the problem is when you stick with that thought process, what you're also communicating to your partner is you are not as important as these other things.
Yeah, I can understand that.
And if you're constantly telling your partner you are not more important than the dishes, that's a hard thing to hear and absorb. And even though that's not literally what you're saying, that is the way it feels. And because a lot of us men are not necessarily emotionally strong enough or able enough at the moment to always present that, hey, this is what I'm feeling at the moment. What happens is we end up just internalizing that and then just believing that of you.
That's interesting that you say that, baby, because that's where the balance of relationships come. The woman in this scenario has to understand, hey, look, I love a clean house. Take it from me. I love a clean house. I want everything to be in its place. I want everything to have a place. But I have to understand that is not always more important than our connection.
Right.
And it's not even necessarily just sex. It could just be spending time together.
Fair.
We haven't spent time together. Or having dinner together, something we do very often after a long day,
Very
right?
much so.
So I need to understand that, hey, you want this connection with your husband. It's not going to happen by washing these dishes.
Facts.
He also needs to understand, though, that for my sanity.
Hold on. Facts. All right, keep going.
You just have to say that?
Yes, I'm advocating for my brethren.
Okay, cool. He also needs to understand, though, that for my sanity and for my ability to function at my best, I need this house clean.
I mean, at the end of the day, I get that.
And that's just me. Not every woman's like that. Some women are very different.
Not every woman is like that.
You have to find. This is where the hard work comes in a relationship. Is both of those things need to be important. And you guys need to understand the importance of both of those things and know that sometimes one is going to take over and sometimes the other is going to take over. But if one is always taking over,
always
taking over, then the other one is going to come out of balance, and then that's when
you're suffering.
Right.
Something's suffering.
Right.
Something is suffering.
Right.
The house is going to be a mess, or you're absolutely not having enough sex with your partner, enough for them to probably feel what it is you're trying to communicate. And you could genuinely and legitimately be trying to communicate that thing. And that's a beautiful thing. But if that message is not getting through, you need to be aware of it. Because that's a conversation that needs to be had. And if not, you might be leaving yourself susceptible to things that you weren't necessarily trying to, communicate. So,
You know, I've noticed as a woman that when I feel better about myself is when I feel more that emotional that desire to have sex. Fair. Right? So if we said I'm going to the gym and I'm looking in the mirror and I'm like, ooh, look at this belly. It's going down and look, I'm feeling it. Is that really fuels a lot of the internal drive that starts with you. Right? It starts with you. And obviously, your partner is a big part of that. But it really starts with you feeling good about yourself.
True.
Loving yourself. Believing that you're beautiful. Right? So you have to put yourself. No one else can do that for you. So you have to really put yourself, do what you need to do to feel that inner beauty so that you can be the best person and show up.
And honestly,
for your partner.
And I don't mean to cut you off, but honestly, I need to say this. It's exactly the same way on our end too. It looks different a little bit, but it's exactly the same thing. If you don't feel comfortable, confident, and fulfilled in yourself, then your partner is going to feel that. And this is one of the areas where they will feel it very strongly. Yeah.
This takes time, y'all, right? Mm-hmm. This is a good sex life. It takes time. Like, obviously in the beginning, right? When you first meeting or you first get married or, whenever you decide to take that important step in your relationship, obviously there's fire there. There's spark. It's easy. You're doing it 2, 3, 4, 5 times a day, whatever.
Yeah.
So, that's in the beginning. But, as life happens and kids come along and you get older and all these things, you really have to, that spark that was there before, you have to keep that fire burning.
You have to keep it going.
You have to keep it going because as time goes on, and especially when you have kids, you're tired and there's just more responsibility. You have more people to think about. You have to really keep that connection between you. And it's more than just, all right, let's schedule this Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, right?
Sometimes you got to schedule it.
Sometimes you got to schedule it.
But that's part of the work that goes into making sure that you maintain it in a way that is felt.
Absolutely.
Not just understood, but felt.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And we had to learn how to really have a language around sex.
That's
talking about it. It's more than just the physical activity, but really talking about it. We've changed over the years, so that is really going to keep that bond there so that when you are tired and when you guys can really still feel connected, but also just being mindful of where you are, right? Because I always tell him, if I'm not feeling you, if the emotion is off, or we're mentally I'm not mentally not there, I'm not going to want to have sex with you.
Right.
That's just it, right? But you don't want to wait a whole 6 months to a year
to figure
that out, because that 6 months to a year, y'all have lost that connection, is just growing further and further apart.
Yeah, now it's a deficit.
Now it's a definite. So it's definitely going to take some time to create that great sex life after that spark has worn off. Is to give yourself time, talk about it, be open in your communication as a couple outside of sex. Because remember, this sex, for a lot of people, is a very vulnerable place. Right? It's a very sacred place for people. And so we just naturally don't really ever want to talk about it because for many different reasons, right? But because it's such a vulnerable place, that the communication outside of sex has to really be there. That trust has to be there. And so that when you do sit down to really talk about sex, you know when we like talking about sex? After we've had it.
Yeah, it's the best time.
It's the best time.
Everybody's clear-headed and relaxed and chilled, and you got yours, I got mine, and so now we can just kind of lay back and really just have a really open conversation.
And that's not the only time, but it's a great time to just.
It's an easy time. It's a layup. It's the low-hanging fruit.
Lay there and talk about it, and just have that conversation.
Be vulnerable with each other.
So I think one of the things that I've had to tell him lately is that as I get closer to 40, I notice that there's a decrease in my sex drive. That's a very hard thing to admit, because what does that mean? Where does that go? What is that? But just to share with you guys some of the things we've talked about, that was one of the things. Hey, babe, look, I've noticed this. I don't know what it means yet, but I've noticed this.
Noticed.
So like I said, we can talk forever, y'all, about this. Next time, I really want to get into the guy. I want to hear your side, baby.
Next time we gotta, because I feel like the male side is very misunderstood, and there's a lot of tropes and things that misconceptions that just rule the day. Men always want sex.
Yeah, all they think about is sex. All y'all think about is sex.
We think about sex first, but it's not what's most important to us.
Right.
And we'll get
there.
But
y'all gotta check out the next one.
We'll get there.
Because I'm excited to hear about it. We're gonna share some light. And again, we're gonna have many, many discussions around this. So please stay with us, y'all. We have so much to share with you guys. We're really, really excited about our journey.
You can't wait to bring you our journey. And so...
all right, we'll catch you guys next time. Remember, we are better together.